Okay, we are going to get started. Let me share my screen. So good morning to everyone. My name is Navia Lee. I am the District Lead Counselor for Rialto Unified School District, and I also manage my own business, Speakeasy the Navia Way, where I do things like Google trainings, public speaking, and just a diverse set of offerings that I do through my business. This session is entitled Curating Connection and Positivity Using Google Workspace. So if you would oblige me with these norms, just to be mindful, if you didn't read the prompts, the session is being recorded. You can feel free to type questions in the chat, and I will also pause periodically to accept questions or comments. And then Ms. Mendoza will be managing the chat as well, and she'll help me out to let me know if there's any pressing questions that I need to address. You will be muted and invited to unmute when there is dialogue as part of our meeting today. And then the presentation is available in the SCED app. So we're going to do an icebreaker, which is this or that. So I definitely need your participation. So the way that it works is just for us to get to know a little bit more about each other. And then also to highlight the fact that we have so many similarities that sometimes we tend to forget that. So whether we're teachers, we're parents, we're whatever it is, all of the hats that we wear, there's more that connects us. And like I said, that's the emphasis of our presentation, of my presentation today. There's more that connects us than divides us. And sometimes we forget that. So how to play is you'll have two options that will appear on the screen. Choose the option that most resonates with you. So there won't be any clarifying information. You just choose the option based on whatever it is that resonates with you. You will type that word in the chat, but you will not hit enter until I let you know to do so. So this is going to be like a waterfall setup. So you'll type in the chat, if your response was tree as shown on the screen, you would type tree and you won't hit enter until I tell you to do so. No right or wrong answers. One person on each option. I will call on someone to possibly share what it is and why it is that they chose what they chose. Or you can feel free to unmute as well. So the reasoning, it may be vastly different of why you chose what you chose. Each option may be viewed in different ways. It's about how the individual sees the option. So again, don't hit enter until you're advised to do so. So the first one is tree or ladder. So you're typing in your response, whatever resonates with you for whatever reason. And when I say enter, that's when you press enter. We'll have a waterfall of responses in the chat. So choose tree or ladder, and you can press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. Wow. Okay. So a lot of people chose tree. Anybody want to volunteer to come off off mute to share why it is you chose tree? Okay. How about Miss Erica Munoz?
Yes, I chose tree just because it's a living thing. It's more appealing to look at than a ladder. It's living, it grows.
I can relate to that.
Nature, yes.
What about Susan? You chose ladder. Do you care to share why?
I just thought of climbing things, and I've never been a fan of climbing on things, and ladders are sturdier and have more reliable spaces.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. So one more, Apple or Android. You can type in the chat and I'll let you know when to press enter. Somebody was quick on the draw. I know this starts a lot of fights in families and amongst friends. So you can press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. Apple. Everyone is team Apple? Wow, no Androids. I'm surprised. Okay, we have one Android. Ms. Cervantes, do you care to share why you're team Android?
I like the camera, and I've had them for I've had this phone, like this brand forever, so it's hard for me to switch. Like I
know, even with all the pressure, because a lot of my Android friends are like, Apple people think that they are, you know, God's gifts to phones, basically. So,
and then the group chat too, like they can like things and I can't, and then they'll like make fun of me, and I'm like,
definitely, it's all good. Right, I hear you, Miss Bates. Is it? Yes, Miss Bates. So 2 more. Hard copy or soft copy. I'll let you know when to press enter. Hard copy or soft copy. Press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. Hard copy. Okay. So anybody care to share on why you prefer a hard copy?
Sometimes I just like to hold something in my hand.
Okay. And then soft copy? Anybody?
I will say that I had to move offices and I threw away everything, and now I want it to stay like that. So soft copy only.
Yes.
Yes,
So
and I'll add to that, I just don't like the waste. So soft copy is less waste, more minimalist.
Yes. So I can definitely relate to both. I hear hard copy, you want to feel it tangible in your hand. And then soft copy is being resourceful, trying to downsize. Good. So one more. And this is probably funny during the era of COVID now, since we've been, you know, virtual for so long. So you can choose virtual or in person and press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, we have a mix. Anybody on why you prefer virtual?
Because right now I'm still in my pajamas.
Right. And we're none the wiser.
It saves time. I don't have to travel.
Yes, that's true. What about in person? Why do you prefer in person? Let's see.
I'll go ahead and add, Miss Lee. The connections, talking to people, relationships. I think it's harder to do on a Zoom call. So I'm an in-person dude.
Yes. Okay, we are going to go into that. I hear all of the responses and I can totally relate. So in this virtual environment that we're in, we definitely don't want to compromise the connection. That's an excellent segue. So at the bottom of the screen, one of the things that I want to highlight, and I hope you receive that's woven throughout the presentation, is that we want to remember the connection is a priority. That was mentioned quite a bit in our opening session, just about relationships, connecting with our students and our staff, depending on what your role is. Well, I guess independent of your role, but of course, some work more directly with students. We want to remember that connection and that people are human, they have feelings, they have families and needs of their own. Also from this presentation, my hope is that you will get a tool or tools to incorporate to work with students, and that you would gain a clearer perspective on how to use technology to enhance your role in whatever capacity that it is. So I'm going to play this 2-minute clip. And let me make sure that I've shared my audio, which I did not.
Collective trauma is any very stressful event that affects an entire group of people or even a whole society. And if you think back across history, a few examples might come to mind. So think about World War II, which even 75 years later still impacts us. Think about natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina or 9/11. And now think of COVID-19, which has taken over 500,000 lives and is still going on. Think of how it's impacted all the various ways in which we live and our very basic sense of safety and connection. Kids are in distance learning, people are working remotely, people are working more hours and are exhausted, people have lost their jobs, people are not seeing their friends and family. My youngest child doesn't know their grandparents. And even just the everyday things that we do, like going to the grocery store, having to think about giving space to one another, following the little arrows down the aisles, everything has changed. Things feel harder because they are harder, and that is collective trauma.
So when we think about the psychological impact that has had, definitely we're aware of the physiological and how it's affected people's health, and even sometimes how we can physically move around, the space that we can occupy. But we also want to think about psychologically the fact that people have needs for connection, as we shared. So you may or may not be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a framework that allows you to look at people and how they develop. So when we talk about people, we're talking about little babies all the way up to from 2 to 92, as the saying goes. So the first tier is physiological. We're going to look at several different Google options that you can use, or Google Workspace resources that you can use to promote and to foster the different levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And like I said, or I don't know if I did mention that you may or may not be familiar, but we're going to briefly go through this, and you can review this on your own as well. So I was trying to think of some Google Workspace options to support physiological needs, but I was thinking it really is about the preparation that we're doing now and before the school starts. So we're talking about the most basic: air, food, water, health. So the space that we're giving students in our classroom, the making sure that we have the right ventilation and circulation of air within our classroom, so that physiologically students have what they need. Then if we look at safety, just feeling stable, having shelter, making sure that the roof isn't going to fall down, and when they walk outside the classroom, they won't trip on one of the bricks, those types of things. Those are what we want to look at for safety. And we actually have an exercise using Google Drawings that I'm going to ask Ms. Mendoza to include in the chat. So if you can include the link, so everyone will be able to use either Google Drawing, which is a virtual platform, or you can use a piece of paper if you have one accessible. I know we have the soft copy versus hard copy. This can incorporate both. So we're going to watch a video, and let me show you a little bit of how Google Drawing works, if you have not used it. So if you are looking to have students write, or what have you, a drawing, if you want to play win, lose, or draw, you can click the drop down arrow and use Scribble. You can play around with this depending on how it is that you want to use it, but Scribble is my go-to. It's the easiest. So if you want to write welcome, you can use Google Drawing to do that. If you want to write a picture of a dog, please don't judge my drawing skills, right? You can use Google Drawing to do that. Oh, I didn't let go in enough time. I think that's what it was. Okay, yeah. So you have to release from your click of the mouse in order for the letters to stick. So that's just a very brief, and we're going to go through a very brief description of how you can use Google Drawing. And I am going to share a video for an exercise we're going to do using Google Drawing.
Did you know that you can doodle your way out of anxiety? In this episode of Therapy in a Nutshell, I'm going to share one activity that can help create the perception of safety and bring on a deep sense of calm. So pull out a piece of paper and get some drawing supplies.
Now remember, it's the perception of danger when we're actually safe that creates unhelpful anxiety. We counteract that by bringing to mind the perception of safety.
What I'm going to ask you to do is take 5 minutes and draw out a place where you feel incredibly safe. So some place that helps you feel calm, secure, loved, and protected. The reason I'm asking you to draw it is because drawing accesses the visual cortex of our brain, the part of our brain that processes and stores memories. And a lot of our memories that are traumatic or stressful are stored in that part of our brain. So by doing a visual activity, you're able to access that part of your brain that triggers that calming reaction. So it doesn't matter if your drawing looks like the Mona Lisa or like a doodle that no one can even tell what it is. The important part is just going through the process of drawing out something that makes you feel safe. So as soon as you're ready, take 5 minutes and draw out and visualize this safe place. Now make sure to spend 5 minutes doing it, because the process and the act of doing it is what is going to trigger your parasympathetic response. So begin to visualize, what do you see and what do you notice around you when you're in this safe place?
So we're going to, I won't spend the full 5 minutes.
Now, after you're done with the activity, take a moment and notice how calm your body.
But I will give you about 2 minutes if you haven't already started. So you're drawing a place where you feel safe. You're either using Google Drawing or a piece of paper that you have. And so we'll start 60 seconds in. So I'm going to play the remainder of the video. You can finish your drawing during that time.
Body feels. By visualizing safety and creating that perception of safety in your mind, you're changing your parasympathetic nervous system. And this activity can be done with all types of memories. So bringing to mind memories of people, places, experiences that felt safe and protected. We can use our powerful imagination to change our nervous system by developing safe resources in our mind. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching and take care.
Anybody,
did you know that you can
anyone want to share their experience from doing the activity? Feel free to unmute.
It actually made you think about what areas make you feel safe. You know, sometimes we don't even think about that. But I like watching, you know, the hummingbirds in my backyard. It makes it, you know, and the fountain that we have back there, both are very relaxing.
That's good. That's great. And I like that you pointed out the physical space that you occupied in your drawing, because first we have to make sure, if we looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that our students at least have that. Some of them, it may not be home, unfortunately, and it may be your classroom or your school or, you know, whatever space they occupy with you as an educator. So I think that that's important. I know when I did this activity for the first time, I was amazed at how it really did calm me. And it actually brought a smile, physical smile to my face, because I was excited and relaxed. So that's something that you can use Google Drawing to do. I saw this article and I thought it was relevant to our discussion, because as educators, sometimes we don't take care of ourselves the way that we expect for our students to, or our parents to. So this is, it was at Harvard before arriving on campus. Yes, Harvard is going to have a class on sleeplessness for the class of 2022. And I just think it's important as educators, we're taking care of ourselves just like we teach it. This is something that we may take for granted. If you have kids, you may have sleep trained your kids at however many months. And so it's funny that at age 18, 19, we're basically sleep training again. But this is training intentionally for students to take care of themselves. In the study, they talked about sleep disorders, which is a separate thing, but it's also just, it's worth noting to be mindful of how good sleep can impact your productivity. So if we were to go to the social, which is here, the need for love, belonging, and inclusion. So I think we've done a pretty good job, in my opinion, in social distancing, figuring out ways to be social. So whether it be the virtual birthday party or, getting together outside, we've done that. So for the classroom, I want to share with you a couple of, and Google Workspace is huge. We don't have enough time to go over everything, nor am I going to share with you all the resources, but just a couple of ideas. And I realize that the level of experience varies widely amongst all of the attendees. So I'm going to try and meet in the middle so we can each walk away with something significant. So here, I'm sharing Google Jamboard. If you can share the Google Jamboard link in the chat, Ms. Mendoza. So I don't know that we will have enough time to fill everything in, but you can feel free to post and maybe even share with colleagues. How will you use technology to support the social needs of your students? So if you were using Jamboard to encourage social communication amongst your students, you can use any of these features. I'm just going to create a sticky note. I'll change the color to pink since it complements what I'm wearing today. Excuse me. And I would say to encourage our students to be more social, I will say meet me at the table at lunch. I'm a school counselor, so that's something that I would actually do. Maybe if you're a teacher, you might say, read this assignment, read these pages or something like that. This could be something that you can post, or you can ask your students some type of question and they can post to communicate amongst each other. So that's Google Jamboard in a very, very small nutshell. Then if we were to go back to the other features, we have Google Groups. If you can share that in the chat as well. Google Groups. So you can create a group, kind of like a blog. You might create a group, give it a name, and let's say it's Social Studies Gurus. And you would give the group a description. And this is in my demo account actually, for Google Trainer. So yours will look slightly different if your district has, depending on their setup, if they actually have the Google for, the entire district or how that works. But let's just say aficionados. And so this is creating a group. So if you wanted to, it will do all the entire organization can join, but you can filter that. You can add those accordingly, go to the group, and this is what the group would look like. So if you wanted to start a conversation about last night's homework, and then you can post, it was cool. Don't you have the best teacher? And then someone else can come in and comment and go back and forth, and it'll start a dialogue. For some reason, I can't get to it because my screen is blocking. But you can see how creating a group for maybe, say, if it's your AP students, or maybe it's your English learners, you want to give them an outlet and a practice of being, more avid readers, or your special education population, create maybe more of it in intimate setting where they can communicate amongst each other. Maybe even create an assignment where they go in and make 2 comments on a thought or what have you. So when we look at fostering the social aspect, definitely Google Groups is something that you want to consider. And then finally, what I have listed here, as I mentioned, we do have several. Google Meet. Ms. Mendoza, if you would share a Google Meet link. So when you create a link, you can create a code, let's say Cool Kids, and join. And so when you invite colleagues to join, they're looking for Cool Kids, and you would join now. So once you are in Google Meet, then you can create a poll. You can, let's see. Okay. So you can create a poll here. If you wanted to say, I do this often, on a scale of 1 to 5, how are you feeling today? It loosely serves as a way to kind of keep track and see who is actually engaged and responding. So you would put 1, you would put 2. I won't go all the way up to 5. And then you can show the results to everyone, launch it. And then as the votes come in, then you'll see, okay, we have 3 people that are 1. We have this, we have that. Also, you can create breakout rooms, have a Q&A. So this is specific, similar to the feature on Zoom, where you can turn on the Q&A. So any questions, those that are in the Google Meet can ask a question, post it, and you can go through at whatever time and ensure that you answer questions. I know that was a lot in a very short time. Any questions that I can answer? Feel free to come off mute or type it in the chat. Okay. So we are going to move forward. We've looked at physiological, we've looked at safety, we just looked at social, now we'll look at ego. So in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is the need for self-esteem, power, control, recognition. Sometimes I think we can walk a fine line as educators and just as people, making sure that we embrace that, because sometimes we feel like we want to keep people in a space, but it actually is a human need, according to this framework, to be recognized, to feel empowered. And we can't always get caught up in, okay, well, if I quote unquote give my power away, then I won't be, the end all be all. I've heard it said that in order to have true power, you have to give some of it away. So as educators, as leaders, we're constantly doing a balance and a dance. So even right now, I'm presenting the session, but I want to be very clear that I'm learning just as much from you as I hope that I'm imparting to you. So it's an exchange. And as they said in the opening session, it's always about growth and the development. So if we look at the ego, I would say Google Forms is a way that you can gather data. And if you can put the Google Forms link in the chat, please, Ms. Mendoza. Let's get a pulse. If, let's say 1 to 5, 1 is not so much, 5 is great. How familiar are you with Google Forms? How familiar are you with Google Forms? Okay, so that's pretty good. So most are, and I'm going to pull that up as well, trying to keep track of our time. So here, this is Google Forms, and I am at the template gallery on purpose because I wanted to show they actually have a couple of different options for educators. So sometimes you may have an exit ticket. So this is for students to answer as they're leaving the classroom, or if you're doing, let's take the tour. If you're doing a training of some sort and you want to check for understanding, this is the exit ticket for students to be able to leave the classroom, so you know exactly who did, who responded, who engaged. So you can add a question there. You can pick a theme. If you want to change the colors, the background, see how people can answer your form, add a confirmation message. So you can let them know, okay, thank you for attending the training today. You can look for the video at this link, or you can contact this person for more questions, maybe leave an email address there. So I thought this would be applicable for the ego, because if you're doing, you can use this for a quiz. So if you're doing a quiz, you can find out, okay, who actually understands what it is that we taught. That can give you data to then come back the next day and recognize maybe top earners, or recognize those who have made the most progress, or what have you. This forms, I thought, is something applicable that you can gather data on. And so that's pretty much it on forms. Any questions here? I think we had a lot of people that said they were pretty familiar. Okay, any questions on any of the different features that we talked about for Google Workspace? Okay, so we are going to go. So also Google Slides, when we talk about the space to be creative, if you could add the Google Slides link, Ms. Mendoza, and you are just the perfect Vanna White, because you're on it. And it's funny, I was talking to a group of youth, and I made the Vanna White reference, and they were like, I don't get it, I don't get it. Okay, so I'm aging myself. But I appreciate your support, Ms. Mendoza, in sharing all of the links. If you can share the link for the Google Slides, and I will show you that as well on the screen.
The one for slides isn't on here.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry. Let me put it in the chat. It never fails. There's always something that you forget to enter or something. I appreciate you for letting me know. So there is an add-on to Google Forms that allows you to populate a student. Certify them is what I've used, and I can't remember the other one, but you can just Google certificate add-on if you wanted to use that from Google Forms. So a student would respond to the questions in a Google form, and then Google Slides will automatically populate a certificate that you can just generate and share. And then you would have to just manage how it is that you distributed the certificate, but at least it would be filled in. So you can try certify ''M. And so what I wanted to point out also in Google Slides is this allows for creativity. If you wanted to give students an opportunity to create, maybe to share what their time away physically not being in campus was like, then they can talk about distance learning and create a PowerPoint presentation about that. So here you would give them a chance to insert an image. And so we'll say they did a lot of sleeping while they were on distance learning. So you would be able to search. So if you saw that, I clicked the drop down arrow for the thing that the icon that looks like a picture, and then I did search the web. You can search the web.
Screen.
Oh, sorry. New share, that's what I needed to do. Okay, so this is what I was saying about the certificate that auto-populates using an add-on from Google. Then you can create a new slide, which is what I did here. I typed in distance learning. If you gave them the assignment of you wanted them to create an experience or tell their experience in a couple of slides, they can click the drop-down menu here with the picture icon and then search the web. And when I searched for sleeping, because I don't know about you, but during the time of not being able to go anywhere, I did a lot of sleeping and eating, but that's another story. But okay, so if they wanted to say, oh, okay, I did a lot of sleeping, caught up on sleep, did it really well, they can search, and then they can insert. And it's supposed to, okay. And then it would fill in. And so they can manipulate the size, and then they can go on to create the story that they want to create using Google Slides. So now I'm going to go back to our presentation. So if we go to the final, which we know that it's always going to be work, it's always going to be a process to ensure that we're actually supporting all of these different elements. We've talked about the physiological, safety, social, ego, self-actualization. That's where we are now. And I'm going to look in the chat. It says, I'm unclear on this, but love the idea. You create a form in Forms and then import it to slides. Where can you find the certificates? So there is something called an add-on. It's kind of like an app that you would download for your phone. So the Google Market Space, I'm not sure of that exact title, but the Google Market Space has places that you can add on different features for how you want to use the Google apps. And so one of them is Certify EM. And with that, those who fill out, if you download that extension and add it as part of your Google form, then those that fill out the Google form are able to populate their information into that certificate in Slides. So that's that for how Forms and Google Slides connects. It populates the name. And then I was also talking about Slides as far as creating something. No, Google Drawing is not an add-on. You can actually access that from, and I will show you, I'll show you that. So if we go to, sorry, my headings are off. Okay. If we go to a new tab and you go to the waffle, it used to be called a waffle at one point, but those 9 dots up there, anytime you open up a Google window, then you'll see the several different options. So you'll see Drive, you'll see Docs, Sheets, Slides. And so when I talked about there's several different options that can possibly curate connection and foster connection, these are those that I'm referring to. So we talked about Jamboard, Forms, Keep is something that I like as well. All of these is where you will access these features, the ones that I'm actually giving you the links to. And I gave you the links to the generic pages so that you can go in and create, let's see. Yes, okay, so then you can go in and create, if you go to the template gallery of each of those, the template gallery of Slides, the template gallery of Forms, it gives you something that's like a default. So you won't have to start from scratch. If you wanted to have someone do a course evaluation, you can just pull that up and you won't have to do everything yourself. And then you would be able to go in and edit the information. If you didn't want to ask your students about level of effort, but you wanted to ask them about level of knowledge of the teacher, and then they can go in and you can send the form, share the link there. Okay. Let me see. Sure. So we have here the self-actualization, which is the final in the hierarchy. It's the need for development, creativity, and growth. I hope I put all these links in there. Ms. Mendoza, can you share the Google Sites and Classroom if they have it there? If not, just let me know and I'll share it. Okay, so this is the Google Classroom, which I would imagine most are familiar, but I will go ahead and share that as well. Let me take off my laser. So Google Classroom is what many have used, and I actually will make sure that I keep a classroom for everyone that I work with. I had a counseling intern classroom that was there, and I just never changed the name. So let me show you what I will do. This is the Google Classroom, but I'm going to name it IE Google Camp, because again, this is my demo. And you can include the class description, the section if you wanted to have it for certain periods. If you're working with educators yourself and you wanted to say this was the special education department, the English department, for administrators, this is the invite code that you can be aware of. It can be, when it's turned on, then those that are in the classroom can see how to join. This is how you display the code when you tell people, okay, join my Google Classroom. That's the code. And then they also have a link. So you can copy the invite link. And if you want to send that in an email to say, this is the PBIS group, welcome, everyone join this classroom, include the link in the email, and then boom, you would be able to address this however it is that you want to, manipulate this however it is that you want to, where students can post and comment, or students can only comment, only teachers can comment and post. You can generate a Meet link, which this is the most secure if you're not aware of a way to meet with students, because within the classroom, it's only live for 90 minutes. I learned the hard way. I was meeting with a group of students and I sent them a calendar invite and just included a Google Meet link. And unbeknownst to me, Meet links stay active for 90 days. So the students were meeting. It's basically the equivalent of them meeting in a room that I left unlocked. I didn't know. Like we talked, we're learning as we're in a virtual setting. So I learned that anytime I want to do a meeting, I will generate the link through a Google Classroom that I have set up. If it's going to be beyond 90 minutes, now they have some more features on Meet where you can say, okay, you can't join unless the main person is in. But if it's less than 90 minutes, I highly recommend this, because anyone that's in your Google Classroom can join from the link, and you can make it visible to students so that anyone that's in the classroom can join. So when we talk about the self-actualization piece, and we were looking at the need for creativity and growth, this is anything that you want to assign in your class, anything where you want to, whether it's a quiz, it's an activity, this is an opportunity for you to be able to assign to students as you would in person or live. So if we go back to sites, then this again is for creativity. I shared that maybe a student wanted to create something that tells you about their time while they were physically away from campus during distance learning. They could also do this with sites. So this has, again, templates that you can use to start you off. So this is talking about a club. So if you're over the AAPI club and they wanted to, it functions and operates just as any other website. So you would have them to include the name of the club. And once you publish it is when it's accessible to other people. You would change the name. You can add other people within your domain to work on it as well. And so you would type their email address there to share, manipulate. This can give you a preview of what it is that you created. So that's what it looks like for right now. So again, that's that creativity that is supporting the self-actualization portion of what Maslow referred to in his hierarchy of needs. I'm very aware it's a lot of information. Sorry it took so very quick. So this is just something that I wanted to share. You can access the hyperlink through the PDF that I uploaded, but I just thought this was cool that I got at some conference or at some point. And it just talks about ways to engage students, resources for hybrid and remote learning. And so you can see several different, it gives you links to, if you wanted to present it, you can do that. And it's a lot of information in there that you can go through, various strategies of engaging students, tools and resources for assessments, SPED and ELL tools and resources. Again, this link is in the PDF, but I will also share it in the chat here. Thank you so much for sharing. See, that's how educators do. We have each other's back, right? I appreciate that, Ms. Appleby. So that's for the marketplace to get certifying. So this link is for the document that I did not create, but I definitely was able to commandeer, and I was given the opportunity to do that. So I am grateful for that. Let me start to close out. So that's a resource for you. So again, just reflect on how will you utilize technology to leverage connection. We know that physically we may have to still practice some social distancing and those things just because of where we are and what we're going through at this time. But whether it's recording a video, starting a blog, a class discussion, creating a hashtag, or a tag in Google Groups, these are the things that can bring you together with your education community, within your district, within your school, within your classroom. And you can just explore. And, you know, I encourage you to figure out and identify some other resources that can help you foster that connection as well. So I just wanted to share my Google story because I think it's relevant to the times. It was actually maybe a month into distance learning that I figured, you know what, I probably would benefit from becoming a Google level 1 educator. And so I just shot my shot, as the kids would say, at trying to do the level 1 educator, and I passed. And so I said, well, maybe I can do level 2. I don't know how much I know. So of course I did some practicing, looking up some things. I looked on YouTube for other recommendations of what you should know going into, you know, the test. But it was something that I thought was worthwhile. So I did it, and I ended up passing the 1, the 2. And becoming a trainer was a little bit more difficult because you do actually have to submit a video of yourself doing something like this, presenting using Google features, what it is that you know, how do you use it in your workplace. But especially with the responses that I got, some people said 4s and 5s on forms, and you may or may not be more familiar with the other apps in the Google workspace, but it's something that either 1, you can learn, or 2, you can just leverage what it is that you already know, and you may already be prepared to become a level 1 educator or a level 2. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there, trying it. And it's just, you can, 1, get more certificates, because as educators, who doesn't like more letters behind their name, more certificates, those types of things. But I definitely tried to use my time. Thank you. I tried to use my time during distance learning to see how can I better connect with students and just be a better me at the end. And then I have this little guide doing the check marks. So I really want your feedback. So if you can be sure to, I think I put that link on there as well, Ms. Mendoza, if you can be sure to share feedback. I'd like to know what I can do to get better. That is greatly appreciated. These are my references that again are on the PDF, and they are all hyperlinked to what I shared today. And I know we are short on time, so I will take any questions if you have any, but that is it. Okay, Miss Feliciano, if you go to, let me see, I'll go to Google Drawing. If you go to this Scribble, go to that drop down, and I use Scribble the most, but you can try depending on what it is that you want to draw. Then
I don't have the Scribble.
Oh, you don't have that?
Problem. Yeah. So, and I added the extension and everything, and it's not on my screen. So I'll troubleshoot it. I'm like, it has to be something really basic, like it's not there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so it's the Scribble that should be in that toolbar, and so I'll figure out why it's not there. Okay.
Do you have 3 dots up here? If you have 3 dots, that may expand what the features are.
No, I don't have 3 dots either.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Thanks, Jenny. That I was asking that same thing. I was like, I was looking for the drawing.
Yeah, I love this idea. Like, I think it's gonna be so great for my class. So I want to make sure I can use it. Thank you.
We work at the same school, so maybe we just don't have access right now to that.
Yeah. I'll go to my personal account and see if it's there.
I think Ms. Mendoza, Ms. Cervantes, that Ms. Mendoza just shared the link where you can do the feedback form. Thank you, Ms. Lucy. And then you can feel free to message me anytime, reach out. I definitely will get back as soon as time permits. So I appreciate you all, and I will see you in the other sessions.